Before we check bishop e2 line, I'd like to show you briefly what to do after bishop e5. There are like three moves here for black. There is a move knight bd7, which is considered to be one of the most common approaches against this line. And a downside of this line is when the knight comes on d7, now they can put the bishop back, and after a bishop e2 we have to take, queen takes, and all of a sudden when we play knight d5, knight f3, e6, we've got some small problems with development. I'm not talking about any special problems here. White has more space, white has an easy development, white can place the dark square bishop either on f4 or g5, place and put both of these rooks on d1 and e1, and white is certainly slightly better. If it follows by d5 by white at some point, it could be really dangerous. So basically this is tiny or a slightly better position for white, but it's one of those slightly but long-lasting advantages for white. Apart from knight bd7, which is by the way not the only move, probably the best score in base has f3, bishop f5, and c4. And for all of you who actually want to try something really interesting for white, whoever plays knight bd7, just know Grandmaster Tivyakov makes an amazing score with the white pieces. I believe he played 7 tournament games and made 7 wins. So just with this move, c4. Apart from this, we don't have to play, by the way, knight bd7. There is an old-fashioned move, bishop d7 by black. This variation is considered to be better for white after bishop c4, and once again slightly better game for white. And I opted for the third possibility for black. It's c6. Smerdon in his book says that this sacrifice in the style of Marshall's original Scandinavian is very unusual, but the more he studied that variation, he actually liked it more and more. I just have to say that I like this Gambit fashion of c6 move, and I really have to say that it looks tempting, it looks interesting for black, and in my opinion after c6 black gets some sort of an interesting game there. So let me just show you what's happening here. Let me just set my microphone to look better. So after c6, white takes on c6 and knight takes c6. Of course that it wouldn't be good for white to take on c6, because at least it would give black bishop pair. Many of you asked me to do like a special lesson on topic how to take advantage of the bishop pair. Don't worry about that, and I'll do it, but it takes time. So after bishop c6, b takes c6, this would give black a bishop pair advantage and black would look good. Instead of bishop c6, knight f3. According to many top GMs, this is the most testing line. Typical continuation here could be, for example, f3, bishop f5, g4, bishop g6, and knight e2. Quite a tempting line by white to, I don't know, get some space on the king's side and maybe start chasing away that bishop. But after queen b6, with the idea of long castles, and afterwards breaking with e5, or just doing rook d8 in some moves, this looks more than great compensation for black. What makes this variation looking even better is that after queen b6, bishop on b5 is under the attack, and we just go with very, very nice position. Let me just show what happens if they play c4. You immediately break the game in the center like this, play long castles. You threaten knight takes d5, you threaten bishop c5, you threaten knight b4, you threaten e4. An amazing position for black just after 10 moves. Actually, that's a, I would say, like one of the main advantages of this opening and the positive side of this variation. most of even good players are unfamiliar with the very clear ideas and what are they supposed to do with the white pieces against this gambit. So after knight e2, queen b6, they have to play knight bc3. Once again e5 breaking in the center, and once again rook d8 with a tempi. After bishop g5, knight e5. We have to discuss about this position. So we're down 2 pawns. Of course, at the moment, e5, actually not e5, bishop on b5 is kind of hanging. An interesting line happens after knight e5, rook d5, and c4, because he defends this bishop with a tempi, and looks like it takes away square for this rook, and definitely moves the rook with a tempi. But look what we do. We play rook to d3. What an amazing move. e5 is weak. Queen is doing great job on this diagonal. f3 is now hanging. These bishops are monsters. I'm talking about the bishop on g6 and bishop on f8. Black looks great. So they would have to play bishop g5, and now you take on c3. Queen is under the attack by 2 of black pieces. They have to take. We take by queen, which is kind of surprising, because we can't take, actually kind of surprising. You can't take by knight or king. So after bishop c6, but I mean, it's surprising that you go into this variation. But after knight e2, if they go and move the bishop away, you have like bishop pair, and you actually have 2 pieces for the rook, which gives black more than enough compensation. King e2, king d8, and in my opinion, black has very strong winning chances in the upcoming type of an endgame with the bishop pair. Another variation could be, instead of, for example, line with f3. Let me just make the long story short. Any f3 and any g4 usually is double-edged type of reaction by white. It looks good, it looks tempting, it looks like they win some space on the king side, but we just have to see the downside of this variation. It kind of opens up king side and weakens white's position eventually very much. That's why I'm telling you, they just walk on a thin ice, and basically black should look very, very good, attractive, and in most of these cases to get and to have like a good counterplay afterwards. So after knight c6, they play knight to e2. This is one of the logical options in many variations. Looks like they developed a light square bishop, knight as well, and all they want to do is castle, but it's not gonna happen. We play queen d5, threatening bishop and threatening this pawn on g2. So when they take queen takes, we still threaten to take on g2. And when they play castle, like, yeah, we're so happy that we've completed this development, we go with 3 kind of moves. So the choice will be all yours. In my opinion, rook c8 to provoke c3 and to take away square for the knight on to come on c3 looks very nice. So when they play c3 to solidify pawn structure, you play e6. You got a nice compensation because you have a bishop pair. Also, you can play long castle with e5, which would be probably my move in faster time controls, because I'm willing to take more risk with this king on c8 being in the center, but breaking the center as well with e5 possibly. And there is a very classic move, e6. We just want a complete development with bishop d6. Play short castle, put one rook, most likely rook from f8 to d8 and rook from a8 to c8, and black should be looking good there. That's why most testing option for white is knight f3. You play queen b6, once again threatening this bishop on b5. They go knight c3, defend this bishop, and you play long castle. All of a sudden, this always very annoying pin by this bishop on g4. Queen that stands on the open d file. Believe me, I know it, because I know how difficult it is to play this type of games and positions from white's point of view, because all these years I've been playing with white e4 move, and I hate very much when my opponents go for my d4 pawn and my queen on d1 with this early knight c6 and long castle possibility. It's very annoying for playing, and even with like not brilliantly played game by black, you always can have like good counter chances, even in a position that looks in some variations better for white. So you always can keep like good counter attacking chances in this position. After bishop c6, queen takes c6, it's nice. We still want to play that e5, opening up knight, queen, pawn, and when they play like bishop f4, you take on f3. I kind of like this type of an endgame, bishop e3, rook d7, bishop a7, and g6. It's nice to understand the essence of this type of an endgames. Objectively, white is up a pawn, but is that a healthy pawn up? No, because these two pawns, I'm talking about f2 and f3, those are double isolated pawns. Pawn on h2 is pretty weak as well. Makes no sense there. This bishop can go on g7 or h6. At the moment, probably it should go on h6, but I'm afraid of bishop e3 possibility, where they try to fix the pawn structure, so maybe better bishop g7. Then you can double up your rooks with rook h to d8. Afterwards, you can play knight d5, and you're not supposed to look for anything but simply exchanging off pieces, because certainly black is not better in this type of an endgame. White is not better in this type of an endgame. If someone can be better, that could be black. In my opinion, black has a nice activity, has quite an easy game, and I like a rising type of an endgame. So that would be all about bishop e5. I tried to cut all those crazy possibilities with knight bd7 because there are like so many moves. I'll be honest with you, from objective point of view, I really believe that a move like bishop b5 and knight bd7 by black could be one of the most tempting and also objectively best variations for black. But this c6 line, it's in a real sense of and spirit of this gambit. And you know, since we opted for Portuguese Scandinavian and we anyways opted for gambit, I believe now we shouldn't show any kind of ambition to play boring, but actually the opposite, to play very aggressively. So that's what I like about this one. Let's go with bishop e2, because in my opinion, if someone doesn't know theory, if someone is solid, if someone wants to simply avoid all those theoretical traps, if someone wants to, I don't know, show you like how is he supposed to play against the gambit in a very like simple fashion, then bishop e2 is the right move. Bishop e2 takes no risks by white, and after bishop e2 we definitely have to take. I even see some games where black played h5. You don't have to go that crazy. I mean, take on e2 and get the pawn back with the queen takes d5. At the moment you threaten two pawns, pawn on d4 and g2. They have to play knight f3 and you play e6. This is the variation I want to analyze. I mean, this type of position. There are not so many things to check here, but you need to understand this position very well if you want to play, because many times in the future when you decide to play Scandinavian Portuguese, you'll have to confront with some boring guys or guys who just don't want to feel like going into complications and playing structure and type of position like this. So let's take a look at this pawn structure that reminds me of French, that reminds me of Scandinavian, and reminds me of Caracan as well. So after e6, they play castle. Those who play c4, those who play knight c3, your queen belongs on h5. Queen does good on h5. You can go with bishop b4 afterwards. You can go with short castle. You can go knight c6 long castle. Actually depends on your preferences during the game. On c4, absolutely the best move is placing your queen on f5. And a point of this early c4 move, which possibly could be even the best reaction by black, could be to make castle here and to prevent knight c6 by black here, because in case of knight c6, then it could be met by d5. What's so special about d5? It just takes advantage of the queen on e2, breaks position of this king on e8, kind of attacks this pawn on e6, and definitely white is the one who takes up initiative here. So just because of this, after castles, don't do knight c6, but probably you should be going with, I don't know, bishop e7, although even bishop e7 is kind of difficult to go with, because when you play bishop e7 and they go rook e1, you still have lots of difficulties to play short castle, because they will once again play d5. So just because of that, I'm telling you, it's not so easy, and maybe you just have to play first c6 move to get rid of and to deprive white of the d5 possibility. When they play knight c3, now you don't even have to play bishop e7 or just put your bishop here. They can never play d5 any longer. You want to play long castle, they won't have d5 with attack by queen on e2 and the bishop on e7. Black looks at least fine and looks solid. I'm not saying it's anything that special, but you know what? If they allow us to take on c3 and then we play knight b7, knight b6, and I don't know, queen a5, queen a4, or queen a6, we may even go just like in Nimzo positions against the double pawn on c4, and that could be a weakness. Anyways, most of guys do castle and then you do knight c6. It's a very accurate approach by black because it attacks this pawn on d4 and stops c4. Because on c4, now we can easily take on d4, and two of these pieces are hanging at a moment, and we've just won the pawn. So c4 would be typically a weak move in position. When you play knight c6, when you just prevent that c4 idea by white, sorry, they go rook d1. They have to go with this move. And here, I've checked some games and some analysis. A long castle would be bad because actually maybe they have that knight c3 possibility. There is one very interesting move, queen h5. So long castle wouldn't be like bad, but it's more accurate to play queen h5. So when they play c4, now you play long castle. What's the point of this? They go knight c3, and for example, we can stop here. You can pause the video and ask yourself, how am I supposed to carry on with from this point of view, and what am I supposed to do? How can I create an initiative? Well, I hope that you took your time. I hope that you came up with some of the most obvious ideas here, and absolutely the best and most interesting and most tempting move by black is rook to g8. I like this position. You know what someone said, that the opposite side castles are always the very obvious sign that you just have to start attacking on another side, and you just have to start pushing your pawns. So they're always like a very clear sign that one of the sides should go with the attack. Rook g8 has a very obvious idea. It wants to go with g5 and g4. Bishop should go on d6, and you want to weaken pawn h2. You want to weaken king side as well, and black looks really, really good in this position. I like rook g8. It looks very interesting. I like its very obvious idea. Yes, it looks like you're phoning to your opponent. What are you about to do here? But yeah, we do want to play like g5 next. After lots of analysis here, d5 is absolutely the strongest move. I don't think people will necessarily play d5 because it's very concrete, not that obvious. So when you take and play knight b4, Looks like d5 pawn is about to fold, bishop g5, and you play bishop d6. Point is, they can't take on f6. All of a sudden, all our pieces are just storming onto the king side and on the king on g1, and this looks great for black. But the move should be rook to d4, threatening to go and to chase this queen away with rook h4, trying to double up these rooks. And here, game gets very complicated. I analyzed some h6 here for black. Bishop takes f6 and g takes f6. Obviously, a very nice position for black. I would say position isn't better. Position is more or less with mutual chances, but okay, you know what? We're black and we just need to play something like this. Although, I'll show you one game. I'll show you a game where white went for bishop e3, which could be absolutely logical reaction by them, and black went for g5. Usually, Nimzowitsch in his book, My System in Practice, said if somebody goes on the side, you should break in the center. And that rule cannot be applicable here by white. White in this game played d5. And after d5, he had to confront with g4. And after d takes e6, g takes f3, rook d8, king d8. In case of c takes b7, check first. King on h1 doesn't work because of checkmate. And king on f1 doesn't work because in that case you take with check. You play queen g4, and then you play after king h1, queen f3, and eventually grab this pawn on b7. So after queen d3, king c8, black hides this king on c8 and wants to capture pawn on c6, c takes, king takes, and look at this. At the moment we threaten mate in 2, rook g2, so g3 is the only move. And now queen on h3 wouldn't work due to queen f1, but knight g4 threatens mate. They have to play h4, take on a3, and the point is after this you have this beautiful tactical motif with a rook takes g3. I was supposed to stop the video and to ask you for the tactics. So rook takes g3, f takes, and bishop cy, bishop c5, which wins the queen for black. Quite an interesting line that just shows a great tactical potential of Scandinavian Portuguese, and why do we actually all like this variation in rapid and blitz games so much. After knight c3, rook g8, bishop e3, you should never hesitate here and just break on the king side and play g5. I analyzed this position and realized that they're not supposed to play like this d5. It involves so much risk. Probably they have to play something else. But you know what? Let's just say they play calm and they want to go with a move like, I don't know, knight d1. Because we can't take on e2, because, I mean, it's equal if we take on e2. And then you just go with g4. And now you would like to go with bishop d6 and go after this move. It looks interesting. Because they can't play bishop f4 to oppose bishop d6 since the d4 is hanging. Also, if I ever manage, I can even play a rook g6, bishop h6, or rook g6, bishop d6, and rook h6 in some of these variations. I'm just saying black can use rook lifting in some of these positions. I also want to show you one of the games that was played by guru of this opening, Smerdan, in his games. It was like, so I'm telling you once again, let's repeat the order of moves. So when they play bishop e2, you take by queen, knight f3, you play e6, and when they go castle, and once again I'll repeat, c4 looks like a little bit more accurate by white, because d5 is in the air. Castles, we play knight c6, but just want to show you because of like typical ideas in this position. At some point I told you that we have to play c6 rather than playing bishop e7 and short castle, because d5 is a crucial move. Although Smerdan in his book gave a very interesting approach. from one of the games by Portuguese, I am Damaso. So this guy played, after d5, he played bishop c5. And after d takes e6, he says knight c6. That's the point. That's a great idea. For one pawn sacrifice, you get a great and a very fast and rapid development. Bishop a3, rook a to e8, bishop c5, queen c5, and Peter Lecco. This was back to 1996 when Lecco was one of the best players in the world. Peter Lecco, who was always very, very strong and solid, couldn't do anything, and out of the opening, just like you see, he had like lots of troubles. I like this approach with the pawn sack with this bishop c5 idea. So you don't have to necessarily say yourself, oh my goodness, I blundered d5, something bad is gonna happen to me in this game. So after d5, bishop c5, if they play knight a4, bishop d6, c5, bishop f4, d takes, any d takes e6, basically that's the highlight motif of this variation. You just oppose with knight c6, and when they take on f7, you recapture by rook on f7. Afterwards, you just want to go with rook e8, you just want to go with knight h5, and I really think that black gets a great game. This was a game between Molian and Smerdon. I'm gonna show you like the complete game, but take a look at this one. Knight d5, forcing this bishop on f4 to commit itself. He plays rook e4, including one more piece into attack. Queen b3, so keeping this pretty annoying queen against the king and the rook here on diagonal a to g8, and threatens b7. Knight a5, a very nice move. We have a very bizarre situation that black is better, even though he's got like two knights on the edge of the board. So after like queen c3, queen takes d5, queen takes a5, takes on c1, and let's stop the video and let's look for typical tactics. So let's stop the video and let's look for typical tactics. I hope that you were able to find a typical exchange sack. I say typical because in French defense you have such a big number of positions where you do this type of sack. After g takes f3, knight f4 threatens queen g5 in one move, king h1, and a beautiful move. I once again was supposed to stop the video and ask you for the move. It's rook e1, threatening queen f3 checkmate, threatening this rook here, and when they play queen c3, that's the point, because they can't play rook g1 anymore and they can't stop queen g2. After queen c4, king h8, queen f4. Now they want to wait for the last chance, but of course we're just going to include first this move and win this game.